In the tranquil suburbs of Medicine Hat, Alberta, the Richardson family, an ordinary household with extraordinary dreams, embarked on a journey that would unfold as a shocking tragedy. Their story is one of innocence lost, betrayal, and a community forever changed. Jasmine, a young girl with dreams and aspirations, stood at the cusp of adolescence. But beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect life, a series of events would unravel, leaving the community in shock and investigators searching for answers. The Richardson family consisted of the father, 42-year-old Marc Richardson, and the mother, 48-year-old Debra Richardson. They had 2 children, Jasmine Richardson, who was 12, and an 8-year-old son, Tyler Jacob Richardson. They all lived in Canada, southeast Alberta, in a city along the South Saskatchewan River called Medicine Hat. They were a typical, normal, loving family and didn't have any major issues going on within their household. Jasmine went to an all-girls Catholic school and was known to be a great kid, friendly, caring, and did very well in school. Jacob, on the other hand, was known to be a very happy and energetic kid and was labeled as the class clown and loved making people laugh. Jasmine was known to be a very good kid in school and made sure to never break any rules, never got in trouble at school or home, was very social, and always liked spending time with her friends. She was a very girly girl and loved wearing pink and other bright colors. However, that slowly started to change. Jasmine's parents, along with her friends, all noticed the change in not only her attitude but her appearance as well. Though everyone knows that kids tend to change a little once they approach their teenage years, and they're finding themselves. But that was a very drastic change. She started wearing darker makeup and darker clothes, and soon began to wear all black clothes completely. She started wearing fishnets, chains, chokers, and other kinds of jewelry that weren't allowed to be worn at school. She began distancing herself from her friends, changed her interests, and she was becoming more and more rebellious. Even her music interests changed as she started listening to things like punk rock or metal music. She also began to take pens and Sharpie markers to draw tattoos on herself, but things like pentagons and other Satanist-related things. And considering she went to a Catholic school, those weren't taken lightly. This was becoming unimaginable for the girl who was once known to be sweet, never talked back, and followed all the rules, turning to a girl who started arguing, snapping back at teachers, breaking dress codes, and just being snarky, thus getting into trouble very often. All those drastic changes went from bad to worst when Jasmine attended a punk rock show one evening, where she ended up meeting a man named Jeremy Allen Steinke. They were both very into each other from the beginning when they met, and Jasmine just instantly became obsessed with that man. The disturbing part of that love affair was the fact that Jasmine was only 12 years old, and Jeremy was 23. Jeremy was a high school dropout, lived in a bad neighborhood, and was unemployed. But the main reason Jasmine was so into Jeremy was because he was a completely goth person. He was just like Jasmine. He wore completely black clothes, black makeup, jewelry, almost everything. They exchanged phone numbers and soon began secretly hanging out and forming an intimate relationship. She would tell her parents that she was going out with friends, but would instead be going over to his house. Whenever she couldn't hang out, they would keep in touch online through social media. Jeremy also wore a little vial of blood around his neck as a necklace, and told Jasmine that there was real blood inside of it, and that he loved the taste of blood and needed it to survive. Jasmine was super intrigued and asked him if he was a vampire, and he said he was not a vampire. He's a 300-year-old werewolf. A few months after meeting him, she changed completely, and her original friends claimed that they became afraid of her. She started spending time on a website called vampirefreaks.com, which was pretty much just like MySpace, but strictly for the vampire community. On her MySpace profile, she used to have her parents and her friends as her heroes, but she then changed it to Jeffrey Dahmer, Chris Angel, Marilyn Manson, Danny Filth, and Batman. On her vampirefreaks.com profile, she described herself as Wiccan, bisexual, insane, etc. She even had blood, kinky and dark poetry listed under her interests column. Jeremy was also very into this website, and it's where the two communicated the most. Jasmine's parents eventually found her social media websites and learned all about Jeremy, whom she was seeing secretly. They knew how old she was, they knew she was sneaking out and not coming home when she was supposed to, and they had to intervene for the safety of their daughter. As for any normal parent would do, they forbade her to stop seeing Jeremy since he was too old for her. She was grounded and not allowed to leave the house unless it was for school, and she was to come home directly after school. This infuriated Jasmine and caused her to act out even more, and a war soon happened inside the home. One day, she wrote a message to Jeremy telling him that she had an amazing idea, which was, "It starts with me killing them and ends with me living with you." She was the one who came up with the plan to murder her entire family, so she could be free and live the life she wanted instead of running away like a normal teenager would do. Jeremy responded by claiming that he wanted to slit their throats and that they'd forget ever trying to keep them apart. On the evening of April 22nd, 2006, the family was getting ready for bedtime. Debra heard some noises coming from downstairs and decided to go check it out. She then met face to face with a mysterious man wearing a black mask, holding a knife. She panicked and screamed, but sadly she was stabbed to death 12 times. Due to the screaming, she woke up her husband Marc and their son Tyler. Marc ran downstairs and found that man standing over his wife as she was covered in blood. He quickly grabbed a screwdriver and attempted to fight off the attacker. Marc put up a good fight by punching him and trying to stab him with the screwdriver, but unfortunately, he couldn't overpower him. Marc was stabbed to death 24 times. Jasmine had been inside of her room that entire time, pretending to be sound asleep when Jeremy came inside and started the attacks. However, her little brother's room was right next to hers, and Jasmine went inside and saw him hiding on his bed because he was so afraid. She held him and covered his ears to refrain from hearing all the screaming downstairs. Shortly after that, Jeremy came upstairs after making sure both of her parents were dead. And that was when Jasmine decided that her little brother, whom she was just protecting, needed to die as well. She claimed that she had no choice but to take his life because both of their parents were dead, and claimed that there wasn't any point in keeping him alive if there was no one to take care of him, as she was going to leave and start a new life with Jeremy. She stabbed her brother 5 times and slit his throat. The next day, a little boy came to their home and knocked on the door to ask if Tyler could come out and play. When no one answered, he peeked through the window and saw something that no child should ever have to see. He ran home and told his parents, and the detectives were called. When the detectives entered the home, they found the bodies and saw a tremendous amount of blood. When they discovered the little boy's throat was slit, they determined that whoever killed the family had to have known them because these attacks seemed personal. Jeremy's trial was in December of 2008. He was instantly found guilty of all 3 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to 3 life sentences. Jasmine was fully released at the age of 23 in 2015 and has been keeping a very low-profile presence. While the detectives were investigating the house, they noticed a family portrait that had both parents, a son, and a daughter, which led the detectives to assume that the daughter had been kidnapped by the perpetrator. They sent out an Amber Alert and went down to the school to search her locker for any clues or information that might help lead them to the perpetrator. Inside the locker, they found an alarming drawing consisting of a house that was on fire, stick figures inside the house that were burning, and 2 stick figures running away from the house. At that moment, Jasmine went from a missing person to a murder suspect. During the search, the police ended up finding both Jasmine and Jeremy within 24 hours of discovering the bodies. They weren't remorseful and didn't show any signs of grief, sadness, or concern while being apprehended. Jeremy laughed and bragged about how he got a black eye from Marc punching him in the face. Jasmine's trial began in June of 2007, and when she was asked why she had murdered her family, she claimed that she loved Jeremy so much and thought it was going to bring them closer together. The detectives found out they had a lot of jailhouse letters that were exchanged between her and Jeremy, and neither of them showed any signs of guilt or remorse for what they had done. They talked about their future together when they got out of prison. Jasmine even mentioned in one of her letters that they were immortal legends. It read, "Never has a person affected me so much. Always, Will there be missing something without you with me? My lawyer tells me we're legends, huh? Closer to immortality, it would seem. Another letter from Jeremy read, I love you more than life itself. I've added you to my visitors list, so once you're released, please visit often. Never forget how much I care, or that I love you. Without you, this life isn't worth living. You said you want to get engaged. Then here's the question. Will you marry me? If so, then it's a verbal agreement. Jasmine accepted his proposal. She also took the stand in her defense on July 3rd, 2007. She told the court that she had a hypothetical conversation about killing her family and possibly making the deaths look like a suicide or an accident, but didn't intend to go through with that plan. When she was questioned about her letters to Jeremy, she claimed that she was only talking about her 5 minutes of fame and that people are going to remember them forever. She claimed that she was at home when the murders happened and that she was in her brother's room trying to cover his ears and protect him from hearing the screams from their parents. Jasmine claimed that Jeremy came upstairs and started yelling at her to kill her brother, since he just killed her parents for them, and she needed to participate as well. She claimed to have stabbed him, but not very hard. She pleaded not guilty to all 3 counts of first-degree murder, but after just 3 hours, the jury found Jasmine guilty of all 3 counts. Jasmine was sentenced to 10 years in prison, which was the maximum penalty under the Youth Criminal Justice Act. This act states that convicts who are under the age of 14 during the time they committed the crimes cannot be charged as an adult and can only receive the maximum sentence of 10 years. She also got a credit of 18 months for the time she served while waiting for her trial. Additionally, 4 out of those 10 years were supposed to be spent in a psychiatric facility. She would then spend 4.5 years under conditional supervision within the community. The Richardson family tragedy sent shockwaves through Medicine Hat, leaving neighbors, friends, and community members grappling with the incomprehensible nature of the events that unfolded. In honor of the Richardson family, initiatives emerged to raise awareness about mental health, foster open conversations, and offer support to families navigating challenging circumstances. The Richardson family's story is a tragic chapter etched into the community's history. May their memories serve as a reminder to cherish our loved ones, be vigilant about mental health, and foster a compassionate society that reaches out to those in need. If you found this video compelling, leave a like, and your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to subscribe and check out our other videos.